Let's look at the solution in this video. So we will follow the BODMAS rule here. We do not have any brackets or order for our first question. So first we will divide 9 by 3, which will result in 3. So we will have 10 multiplied by 3, which is 30, multiplied by 4, which is 120, plus 2, which is 122, and then we will subtract it by 7, which should give 115. You don't have to remember these things by heart. Excel will solve this for you, but it's always good to verify to ensure that our calculation is correct and we have specified our brackets correctly. For the next one, we are first going to divide 2 by 2, which will give 1. Then we will divide 4 by 2, which will give 2. So now 1 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 2, which is 6, and 6 minus 7 will be minus 1. For the final one, we will solve the bracket first. So that will be 2 plus 1, 3. Now we have to calculate 7 order 3, which is 343. 7 multiplied by 7 is 49. And when we multiply it with 7 again, we get 343. Now we will divide this by 7. So we will get 49 again. And when we will multiply 49 by 9, we should get 441, which is the case. Let's move to our absolute, relative and mixed referencing section. For the first one, we have to calculate the total sales by multiplying quantity into price. So we will write equals to, we will select B2 and we will multiply it by C2 and we get our first sales. Now when we copy the formula down, the quantity and price should change. So we have to keep relative referencing so that when we copy our formula down, the cell change. Excel implements relative referencing by default. So when we copy the cell down, we are getting the correct results. As I mentioned earlier, it's always a good idea to verify that your calculations are working correctly. For that, you click on your formula and you see which cells are used in your calculation. Here the cells used are correct. For the next calculation, we have to calculate total sales again, but this time we have to reduce our commission. Now our quantity and price should change as we copy our cell, but our commission should not change. So we will implement absolute referencing for our commission cell, and now when we copy our formula down, we are getting the correct results. If you have not looked at the earlier videos, I will highly recommend that you watch them first because I have explained all these concepts in detail there. Let's move to our next scenario and let's just visualize this first. Here, when we copy our cells down, the number of hours should change. For example, for our column C, where we are calculating the amount that Pam will charge for product 1, that will be multiplication of $40 and 67 hours. But when we try to calculate the same for project 2, the hours should change from 67 to 34 while the $40 should be fixed. So if we need to perform this calculation just for Pam, our number of hours will change as we copy our formula down, and the $40, the hour rate for Pam will be fixed. So we will make it absolute. Now the values for Pam are getting calculated correctly, but if we copy the same formula for Sam, we are getting incorrect results. Let's look at our formula here and we see instead of calculating or taking the hours as 67, it is taking the value for Pam, which should not be the case. Also, the hourly rate is incorrect. It should be 50. But since we have made absolute reference for this cell, it is still taking that as 40. So we need to make two changes here. For our number of hours, the column B should be fixed, but the row should change as we move down. At the same time, for our hourly rate, the row should be fixed, but the column should change when we copy our cells to the other columns. Let's do that. So we will fix our column for number of hours, and here for our hourly rate we will fix the row number. And now when we copy this formula to the other cells, we are getting the correct values. Let's solve our if practice questions. So here we will write if score is greater than 32, the second parameter will be pass. That is, if our logical test is true, then we will specify pass, else we will specify fail. And now the first candidate Pam has failed in science. Let's copy this formula down and we will see the correct values. The next one again is very similar. We will specify if, we will select this review. If it is greater than 3, we will specify good as our second parameter, else we will write needs improvement. And now let's just copy the formula to the other cells and we get the right answers. For the next one, we will pair if with and or. Here we want to return good if the status is on time and the defects are low. So we will write if, and since we want both the conditions to be true, we will write and. This should be equal to on time and the defect should be equal to low. If that is the case, we will specify good as the second parameter, and for the third parameter we will write bad. Let's complete our formula, and when we copy it down, it is working correctly again. For the next question, we have an or condition. Either rating should be greater than 3, or if the charges are less than 50, that is also acceptable. So we will write if, then we will write or. Rating should be greater than 3, comma, the hourly charges should be less than 50. If that is the case, we will specify y as the second parameter, else we will specify n. Let's copy this formula down, and now you see we are getting the expected results. For the final one, we are combining and or both with if. For our and statement, we have to check that the complaint date should be in the last 30 days. For that, we will use today function, which returns the correct date. We will specify if and today function minus date less than 30. Then we will specify a comma. We will select impact is equals to high, so that both the conditions should be satisfied. Complaint date should be in the last 30 days and the impact should be high. We will close our bracket. Now on top of this, we have another or condition. Either this part is satisfied or we have an issue for 3 consecutive months. So we would specify or. We have already calculated our first condition. For the second condition, we will select consecutive 3 months and we will check if it is equals to yes. If that is the case, we will specify y. Otherwise, we will specify n. And now let's just copy the formula down and it will give us the correct results. This one is really straightforward. We will first use nested if. So we will check if score is equals to 1, then we will specify bad. If that is not the case, we will again check if score is equals to 2, then we will specify needs improvement. If that is not the case, we will again check if score is equals to 3. If that is the case, we will specify average. If that is not the case, we will check further to see if score is equals to 4. If that is the case, we will specify good. Otherwise, we will specify excellent. And now we got the appropriate description on the basis of our score. If we change our score, the description is changing accordingly. We can also solve this scenario using our switch statement. So we will write equals to switch. This cell will be our first parameter. Now we need to compare this cell against our list of these values. So we will select 1 as our second parameter. If the match will be found, it will return bad, which will be our third parameter. Then we will further check it with 2. If that is a match, it will return needs improvement. The next parameter will be 3. If that is a match, it will return average. Then we will specify 4 and good. And finally, if none of this match, we will specify our default value as excellent. This one is pretty similar. We will check if our rating is greater than 4.5, we will specify top store. If that is not the case, the formula will continue. To check if the rating is greater than 3.5, then we will specify good store. If that is not the case, we will further check if our rating is greater than 2.5, then we will specify average store. If that is also not the case, we will further check if our rating is greater than 1.5, we will write below average, and then for the final condition, we can just write the default value bad. And now when we are changing our ratings, we are getting an appropriate value. To solve this question, switch has a slightly different syntax. So we will write equals to switch, and here instead of specifying the condition, we will specify the first parameter as true, and we will specify the conditions as our list of values. So for the first list of values, we will check if the rating is greater than 4.5, then we will specify top store. We will again check if our rating is greater than 3.5, then we will specify good store. Now one can argue that any store which is meeting the first condition, that is, if its rating is greater than 4.5, then its rating is definitely greater than 3.5. So what will be returned? I want to clarify here, if multiple conditions satisfy our criteria, the condition that is listed first or at the top, the result from that condition is returned. Let's quickly go ahead and complete our formula now. We will check if rating is greater than 2.5, we will write average store. If our rating is greater than 1.5, we will write below average. And finally, for our default value, we can write bad. The final one is very straightforward. We just have to pair this inside our if error function. So we will write if error, our numerator divided by denominator, comma, divide by 0 error. Now instead of getting a default error message, we are getting a text message of our choice. If you were not able to solve any of these questions, you may want to revisit this specific formula or video where you were facing issues.